Football is back, people. The NFL regular season is finally here. We got the Detroit Lions taking on the defending, reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, there's a big storyline to follow for the Kansas City Chiefs. Star defensive tackle Chris Jones is probably not going to play in this game. Him and Kansas City are at odds with the new contract. And it seems like he may be willing to miss a couple of games until they come to a resolution with his contract disputes. And Chris Jones not playing in this game is a huge disadvantage for Kansas City. Chris Jones, not only is he phenomenal against the run, but he really gets after it. And anytime you have somebody as dominant as what Chris Jones is up front on your defensive line and you lose that, you lose a big advantage when it comes to your pass rush and your run defense. Detroit has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Top 10 at that, top 5 at best, maybe top 3. Who's going to step up when it comes to the pass rush of Kansas City? George Karlaftis, could he be somebody to have a big day in this game? They're going to need somebody else when it comes to their edge rusher position to step up and be able to get pressure on Jared Goff. Ben Johnson is one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. He was interviewed a couple of times for some head coaching opportunities. He more than likely is going to be a head coach next year. The Detroit Lions offense has a lot of talent. They got good receivers. They got Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. How the hell are you going to game plan for Jahmyr Gibbs? Jahmyr Gibbs is an X factor in this game, right? There are probably some other X factors that you can look at going into this matchup, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a difference maker in this game for Detroit because he's starting to usher in this new era of players that are coming into the league called positionless players. Detroit has been playing Jahmyr Gibbs not just as a running back, but at receiver as well. And he's going to be a mismatch for anybody who's guarding him on that Kansas City Chiefs defense. There's not too many linebackers that are good enough to cover a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs in coverage because he's a fantastic route runner. And after the catch against most defensive backs, they're not good enough to wrap him up in the open field. Jahmyr Gibbs could have a really big day against this Kansas City Chiefs defense. And Detroit is a team that loves to throw the football deep. Jared Goff is one of the most accurate deep ball throwers in the league. Kansas City, they had a young secondary last year that was able to step up big in the playoffs in big moments. But is this secondary going to be able to be as good against a team like Detroit that's going to have a really good offensive line where you don't have Chris Jones being able to get after Jared Goff? That kind of concerns me. Kansas City, even though defensively you may have some concerns about them, they got a shot because they got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Mr. Big Red on the sideline, Andy Reid. Detroit's defense was terrible at everything last year. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop a cockroach. They couldn't stop a fly. And if me and you were playing quarterback against the Detroit Lions last season, they probably wouldn't be able to have stopped us neither. But they drastically overhauled this secondary last year. Well, this past offseason. They got Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They drafted Brian Branch. This is going to be a vastly improved secondary. And if they struggle against Kansas City's offense, you got to start looking at Brad Holmes and you got to ask him, hey, bro, like, we spent all this money to improve the secondary and we still getting carved up by quarterbacks. No matter how good Patrick Mahomes is, you spend a lot of money like what Detroit did. You expect that secondary to have some results. This is why you pay big money. This is why you drafted Aiden Hutchinson. This is why you got James Houston. Because you need to be able to slow down Patrick Mahomes in the big moments. Let's face it, this is going to be a game that probably is going to come down to the last possession. I was telling my friend earlier today that I don't think win or lose, Detroit is going to lose by more than one possession. They went 8-2 the second half of last season. They nearly beat Buffalo on Thanksgiving. They got talent on defense now. This defense, if they can't slow down this Chiefs offense in the fourth quarter, is wraps. I'm sorry, but I think it's kind of money wasted. Aiden Hutchinson really cranked it up a notch during the second half of last year. They need him to be really big in this game. Same thing with James Houston. And the biggest question about Kansas City's offense isn't receiver. They got more than enough talent at receiver. You got Kadarius Toney, who is going to play in this game. You're going to have Justin Ross, who potentially could be a difference maker. You still got Travis Kelce. But Kansas City's offensive line, when it comes to their two offensive tackle positions, is a little bit concerning. They paid a lot of money to Jawan Taylor in free agency. I think that although he had a good year last year, that was his best season in all his years that he was in Jacksonville. So maybe Kansas City overpaid. We're going to see. He's going to get tested. They got Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith he's okay. He didn't have a great season last year, but we'll see if Andy Reid and this Kansas City Chiefs offensive line coach can work some magic with him. But Detroit, if they can get after Mahomes and they can keep him inside the pocket and keep him from escaping and doing all of the crazy things that he does when he breaks outside the pocket, I think they got a really good shot against this team to pull off the upset. This is a really improved secondary in Kansas City. Outside of Travis Kelce, they don't really have a legitimate number one wide receiver that I think is going to be able to win consistently against Detroit's secondary. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson versus Travis Kelce is going to be a really interesting matchup. You got to be able to slow down Travis Kelce if you want to be able to slow down Kansas City's offense. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think he's one of the perfect fits for a guy who could give Travis Kelce some issues. He can come down, cover Travis Kelce in coverage, and be able to hold his own. He's also really good against the run. Travis Kelce versus Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, look up for that matchup, this matchup in this game. It's going to be really big. If they can get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to slow down Travis Kelce, I think it's going to be huge for Detroit being able to get key stops in this game. Now, what does concern me about Detroit is that I don't know about their run defense. I think their pass defense is going to be tremendously improved, but I think that this run defense is still going to be an issue. They do got Jack Campbell, who I love a lot. But asking a rookie linebacker going against Patrick Mahomes to be able to understand what Kansas City is going to do when they're changing plays, audibling things, changing things up is a hard task. And the middle linebacker is kind of like the quarterback of your defense. And Kansas City's offense, they throw a lot at you. So Jack Campbell, I like him, but I don't know about the other linebackers that they have. I don't know if Detroit's run defense is going to be great in a game like this. Isaiah Pacheco, we remember how big he was during Kansas City's Super Bowl run last year. He was a 7th-round pick. And he's a monster. Kansas City, offensively, their offensive tackles are really concerning, but you know with Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be able to put up points as long as Detroit can't keep him from making those big plays. If Detroit can keep Patrick Mahomes from improvising and just allow him to beat them from within the pocket, I think that this defense can get some stops because of how good their pass rush is. But if you're allowing Patrick Mahomes to get outside the pocket and buy time for receivers to get open, that's when you get in trouble, especially in third down. So the team that I'm going to take to win this game, it was really tough. I'm taking Kansas City, though. They're playing at home. It's really hard to win that Arrowhead. It is week 1. So there is a good chance for Kansas City to come out slow, come out a little bit sloppy. But I just don't know about Detroit's defense against Patrick Mahomes in this game. I do think that this defense is going to get stops. I don't think that it's going to be a bloodbath defensively. But I think late in this game, with Patrick Mahomes having the ball in his hands, I think he's going to slice and dice this Detroit secondary. And I think that's when Kansas City is going to pull away in this game. I like Kansas City to win. 31-27 is my final score prediction. I think that Patrick Mahomes gets the ball last and he leads Kansas City downfield and they get a game-winning score to win the game. I like Kansas City over the Detroit Lions week 1 Thursday night.